Throughout the trade war and with all of the political discussion around agriculture lately, one thing farmers often say is that some of the folks in Washington could stand to learn a thing or two about farming and ranching. So with that in mind, a special farmers market was set up during the August recess to allow producers to take their message direct to Capitol Hill.
According to the American Farm Bureau Federation, the typical American consumer is at least 3 generations removed from the farm. To close the gap, farmers and ranchers have found it all the more vital for rural Americans to share their story. During the Farm Credit Service's annual fly-in event, held just a few short weeks ago in Washington, D.C., producers who use the financial institution's lending services were able to try their hand at engaging folks from both sides of the aisle about their farms and retail products.
Probably the most important thing we're going to try to do is educate people about agriculture. Because if you look at Congress today, very few of them have a direct tie to agriculture. They don't understand the modern realities. A lot of them are supportive of agriculture. They have this good feeling about farmers, but they don't know what the reality of modern agriculture is. And so job one up there for us is explain that.
The 3rd annual event was hosted in the Library of Congress. More than 80 farmers and ranchers brought everything from pecans to maple syrup to put on display in hopes of spurring a little conversation.
One of the things we try to stress is agriculture is not the same everywhere. And some of it's big and some of it's small and some of it's commodities and some of it's really specialty products. And if you embrace all of that, you're going to start to understand agriculture as it exists in the world today, and you get a much clearer picture on what it takes to be successful out there. And that's the message we're trying to bring people.
Attendees, which ranged from Capitol Hill staffers to lobbyists and legislators, were given shopping bags upon their arrival to browse the marketplace. They were encouraged to visit with the various vendors about their operations, as well as take home a sample of the products on display. Lotsie Spradling and her husband Mike own the Flying G Ranch in Oklahoma. They've been running polled Hereford cattle since 1932. But in 1986, after Lotsie and Mike got married, they began growing pecans. Spradling's ranch produced nearly 1/10 of Oklahoma's pecan crop last year. Lotsie says there are just 2 things that consistently impact their family's operation.
Mother Nature's the biggest. Probably politicians are the next biggest. You have to be careful that you follow all the rules and regulations. If they shut down a market for us, China's been a big market for us. With the trade things going on, that market has definitely gone from being booming to a trickle.
Part of the objective for the marketplace event is to connect those producers and give them a face, as Van Hoos put it. Another goal is to give the producers a voice by sharing their thoughts and opinions with the folks who guide and create the legislation that impacts them.
First of all, we appreciate the free market we have, but we also want to share our concerns about some of the tariffs going both ways, and also the group we're with, Farm Credit, is instrumental in keeping most of us afloat.
The 116th Congress, which is currently on their August recess, is the most racially and ethnically diverse group the United States has ever seen. And as the urban sprawl continues, many in rural America have said they struggle to find the votes needed to elect leaders who are educated on the policy impacting their rural constituents. Mark Yeager and his daughter Anna have started making the transition over the past couple of years to give their business a face. They discovered more consumers wanting to interact with the people behind their products.
We're telling a story of our cotton that we're growing, ginning, picking the best we got out of what we make and turning it into a textile that you can't buy anywhere in America, not where you know where the field it was grown in.
The Yeagers have been farming cotton since the early 80s, but it wasn't until 2015 when Anna moved home full-time after a stint in the Big Apple they decided to cut out the middleman and market their cotton directly to consumers.
I fought like crazy to not come back to the family farm, but my dad approached me in 2015 with this idea of taking the cotton that we're growing and making it into a consumable good that we could sell direct to consumer, and I thought that that had such huge potential.
Redland Cotton, the business under which products from their Redland farms are sold, focuses primarily on textiles such as bedding and towels. Customer assessment of the product line, which includes a Made in America logo, have found the Jaegers selling their 100% cotton-based products at a premium. Over the past 3+ years, Anna has focused on sharing those values that Redland Farms brings into their textiles. She hopes that her fellow agriculturalists will someday be able to join forces to educate a wider swath of the public.
I'm personally hoping to go around and meet a bunch of other farmers that are creating products and seeing how we could work together even.
Lotsie Spradling would agree that making the connection starts with one conversation at a time.
We're face to face with another human being. They have to eat, we have to make a living. It really is a nice connection.
Sometimes you just have to get your message out there.